Hello everyone, good evening to you all. I'm Anisha Rai, the editor of Identity, and I'm thrilled to be here at this beautiful event by Casa Mia and Ghidini in collaboration with FBMI at the stunning Halm Collective. Today's panel discussion is all about celebrating our heritage and how it comes through in our creative processes. We're going to discuss how we straddle heritage craftsmanship and contemporary design today across both residential and hospitality projects. Joining this wonderful discussion, we have Sejal Patel, the Senior Design Director at Kristina Zanic Consultants. We have Reem Al Qamzi, Founder and Architect of Rqitects. Lamya Elshohdy, Senior Interior Designer at Swiss Bureau Interior Design. And Giuseppe Ghidini, VP of Sales and Marketing at Ghidini. To kick off the discussion, why don't you introduce yourselves and what you're working on at the moment, and a little bit about what heritage means to you. Sejal, shall we start with you?
I'll start. So, like you said, I'm Sejal Patel, work with Kristina Zanic, and we specialize in hospitality. So most of our projects are hotels that we specialize in, luxury hotels. We also do a bit of residential, which is mostly high-end residential for royals and other wealthy individuals. To me, what heritage, besides sort of the project needs, personally, I think heritage is so important, where especially I think in these days when we move away from our home country, most of us here are expats, so we need to kind of hold on to the heritage that we have and also embrace other people's heritage, because the world's becoming smaller and smaller, so it's really important to for our future generation to understand what heritage is and where we come from. So that's heritage, yeah. And it's interesting when we will blend into design later.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm Reem Al Qamzi. I'm the founder of Rqitects Design Studio. We focus on a lot of luxury residential projects. We do both architecture and interiors. We also work on healthcare projects as well. It just seemed to grow that way, so it's quite interesting how residential projects come together with healthcare, but that's how we're growing, and we're very excited about what's coming. In terms of heritage, I think heritage is all about like our identity. Being an Emirati and staying, growing and living in a place that's it's like a melting pot of different cultures. It's so amazing to see how we blend with all the different cultures, but still the essence of us being Emirati, we're so rooted in our heritage and our culture. So, and I try to bring that into our projects in any way possible.
Great.
I am Lamya, Senior Interior Designer in SBID. We are specialists in residential and in commercial spaces. Heritage for me is an inspiration in my designs. I love getting inspiration of the desert colors and the Bedouin patterns. Use it a lot in our like in the texture and in my designs. So yeah, it's nice to get inspired by the heritage of the UAE.
I am Giuseppe Ghidini. I'm heading up the commercial team of Ghidini 1961. For me, heritage, well, talking about work is for sure, I work with my family company, and the founder was my grandfather, so for me, heritage is a little bit the history of my family that has been working through generation in the family company, but also the people that work within the company. There's the entire families that have been working with us, and husband and wives, and then their kids, and then now they're kids of their kids. So it's something that I'm extremely proud of, and also a little bit the heritage, I would say, of where we are. We're in a city that is called Brescia. It's not a big city. It's nearby Milan, but it's the biggest hub in Europe for metal treatment. So there's the culture of the city is embedded into this industry that is related to metals, and we do our little part into this ecosystem. So, yeah.
So, growing up in the family business, what was your childhood like? What was your experience with the brand? I'm very curious to know how that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always have been involved into the family business ever since I was a kid. I remember my childhood memories going to play in my dad's office, and going with my grandfather around the factory would show me the foundry where they make molds, where they make all the mechanical treatments and all that. And as a childhood memory was very playful kind of thing, but now that I'm an adult, I realized that actually the benefit of growing into this, you know. So when you become an adult and you start participating into the family company, you already have a very good awareness and a very good familiarity, you know, with all the processes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Lamya, could you please briefly share your journey into how you got into design?
Design is my passion. I love design, and when you have a passion in something, you never get bored of it. I can design for hours without getting bored. So I started as a kid. I was playing with papers, trying to create the shapes. And when I grew up, I realized that I wanted to be an architect. So I went to the engineering school, and I went to the architecture school, started my career as an architect, and then I continued as interior designer, and I'm doing this for 11 years now, and I do enjoy it.
And what are you currently working on at the moment?
Currently, I'm working in commercial offices. One of them is very related to the UAE heritage. It's a dates factory, and it has a strong concept of the desert and the strength of the palm tree. So I'm so excited about this project. It's a design and build, and also I'm working in a hotel project now. So yeah, it's 4 offices and 1 hotel project.
And Reem, what are you working on at the moment?
We're currently very busy with a new hospital. That's so it's in the concept stage still. So we expect to be busy with that project for the next few years. We have a lot of residential projects in the pipeline as well. We're also handing over a very interesting office space / industrial warehouses. So we're looking forward to completing that towards the end of the year, inshallah.
Okay, and Sejal, what about you? You've got some very exciting news that you said you want to share with us.
Yeah, well, so yeah, we've got a few projects that are coming to an end, like you, which is a resort in Red Sea. We opened up one just very recently, and this is another one, which is Shura with IG, and a local restaurant which will respect the local heritage. It's at Tashkil. It's called Garbu. It's actually just, I want to say, weeks away from opening. So we're quite excited about that. And at concept level, we've got a few other hotels that we are working in the region.
So you've worked with Sheikh Al Latifa quite closely on Jerbu, and what was that experience like and bringing it to life? Because it has a lot of art, it has a lot of culture. It started off as a supper club, but then now it's going to be a restaurant.
Yeah, the journey was really interesting, actually. We learned, I've been in Dubai almost 20 years now, but learning with Sheikha was really amazing. We kind of learned so many things that were particular to Dubai itself. For us as, you know, as foreigners or expats, we would just pick up a pattern and think that's local. But it was really interesting where we tried to understand certain patterns. When you see them, that's actually a Dubai pattern, or that's belongs to a lane or Abu Dhabi. So that level of interest was gone into the project, and we worked very closely with her, with our design that we envisioned at initial stages, and then working with Tashkil and Tanween both, where they have local designers who get into different furniture making as well, and a lot of detailing that went into sort of developing a canopy above the bar that had a lot of inspiration from the graph tree. Like the story had a lot of parts to say, and would love to share that another time. But a lot of inspiration kind of went into how the chandelier was inspired by weaving, tally weaving, or the bar was inspired by a story from gaff tree, and how sort of gaff tree is in olden days is where people come together to have, you know, good and bad news on that. So it was just more like a community coming together. And there's so many other things about fishing nets and really interesting bathroom concepts where it was inspired by the olden sea pearl diving. So you'd see a lot of these touch points and unique furniture designs that we've worked with Sheikha and her team to get to this level of that personalized, really true to local heritage, and a lot of it is made locally, so kind of touching on the sustainability part as well was really close to her heart and ours, so it was really interesting. Yeah,
that sounds amazing. So when you're researching such projects and when you're starting out on a concept, where's your starting point?
The starting point's always doing research. So the points that I talked about, we did a story about, so understanding what she, as an owner, not just Sheikha, but what her as the owner of the restaurant, you know, what she really needs from that property. So understanding that, and then working backwards on respecting the heritage, right? Because it's all about Emirati cuisine and how it's all going to come together. So we started researching about different ways of, you know, moving away from your typical ideas of what Arabic is or what local means. We looked into such stories as the Gulf Tree or sort of pearl diving, and how the pearl diving kind of got developed into two things. As you come into the restaurant, there's like this big cage that was inspired by the fishing nets, so on. So there are so many research that we do. I also want to be fair to say ChatGPT also is very helpful.
Okay,
you do get to, you know, you do. It's really interesting because you do your own research, of course, because you can't get away from that. That's the base. But with so much technology to hand, it just makes our life so much more easier, but also the project so much more interesting. So there is that support that we must take in terms of even researching. And a lot of our local partners, like for example, if we're working on Saudi projects, which we are working in Medina at the moment, we've got 4 hotels there, and our Saudi partner really looks into the design, and she commented on an image today where I didn't even realize, but there was a guy. The image for us, it was like one lady putting perfume on a guy, but you don't really see the face. All you saw was like a little kandura neck piece sort of falling out, and she said, well, that's not local. So, you know, using a lot of internal resources. We have like 25 nationalities in our office in Dubai itself. So there's a lot of cross pollination between different nationalities coming in to kind of explain, no, this is not what it is, or this is what it should be. So there's a lot of openness within the company that we take from. So yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Reem, in terms of like similar stories, like in terms of cultural sensitivity and the contemporary way of doing things, do you find yourself as sort of an impasse, like you're not to try and find some sort of a balance between both? What's your process with that?
I think it is very important to find that balance. You know, how do you bring contemporary aesthetics into a project that needs to be culturally sensitive? Now, the majority of our clients are Emirati, and so, you know, they come in, you know, they know that they want this beautiful modern house, but we can't neglect the fact that, you know, they are Emirati, we're rooted in certain cultural elements. You know, there is, I find that there is even a certain way in which you would design the space to meet these cultural needs. I enjoy that synchronization that happens between me personally and the clients, because I feel like as an Emirati architect, I understand what they're looking for in terms of how the flow of the house and the space needs to be. issues of privacy. You have your children, you have your boys and girls growing up. They're gonna eventually bring their friends over. Boys and girls, might need to be in separate places. But how do you bring this cultural sensitive element into contemporary design? It's very interesting, but it's not something that we can neglect. I think it's a very important part of the process.
Right. And going back to how we use AI or any other technology in our most of us are using it in our day-to-day life, but in your practice, is there something that you found like, oh, this just makes my life so much easier?
Well, it makes my life easier in the sense, in the sense that you would use it to summarize the research process. I still I have trust issues. I still find that I need to go back and verify this information, but definitely, we do use it in our research. Trying to, it just makes your life so much easier in terms of time. It summarizes everything, but I do like to cross-check things. But in terms of the design process yet, I haven't still explored it, but it's something that I'm very interested in looking into. I think it might be interesting and see what results come out of that.
Right. Lamya, what about you? Are you exploring some new tech that
yes,
people should know about?
Yeah, actually, the AI is very useful, especially in the concept stage when you are creating the mood boards and the mood images to the client, because sometimes you want to find the mood images in the Pinterest or any of other these websites that could help us. Because in Pinterest, you will never find what you are thinking of. So we use Midjourney in our company, and now they are making more training to the design team and the visualizers and the whole team. You give it some keywords, and it gives you a mood image. Of course, it's not the designs that you are going to design, but it gives you an image and a picture that you can show to the client and tell him that this is the direction or this is what we are after. So it's very useful. Also in some materials, in creating materials, you can create a material in the AI. So it's very helpful in the design process.
What about you, Giuseppe, in the production process?
We're just a week ago, we started working with a startup from Rome.
Okay.
Is two very young guys. They're working with AI to create very fast, very realistic images, which for us can be very interesting for social media communication, but also for, when you're working on projects with your dealer or, with an interior designer, being able to generate images that can inspire and ultimately can help visualize the end user your proposition, and I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, certainly that. To a lesser extent, ChatGPT, because most of our copy is made through our press office. And I believe they are still doing it themselves. I would be a little worried if they use AI only. And yeah.
All right. Lamya, can you talk a little bit about the latest office extension that you've worked on for Property Finder?
For Property Finder. Property Finder, they started as a startup company. And they grew and started to create a more margin, and they build up their name in the market. So the brief for the client is they wanted an advanced version of Property Finder. So our concept here was the reflection and the growth. So in the design, when you walk in the office, you will find that there is a strong a focus on the reflection when it comes to the design elements and the growth. You'll find that, for example, the design and the flooring is reflected on the ceiling, and we use the one geometry shape, which is a circle, and we use it in different shapes. You can find it in the wall seat, you can find it in the light, and the reflection and the growth is upside down. You'll find the upside down planter pots in the pantry, and also we have a gradient paint. That means that that creates also the idea of the growth. So yeah, it's a quite an interesting project, and you can feel it, the growth and reflection in every part while you are walking around the office. So I really enjoyed working in this office.
All right, Reem, you are also working on an sort of a workspace in an industrial
Yes. Yes.
setting. So, what's your concept that you're developing for this project?
Well, the project is divided into two parts. So you've got the commercial part in the offices, and then you've got the other part, which is the industrial warehouses. And the idea is that they wanted to use the warehouses for, to create a more creative hub. And so, it was very challenging to, how do you create a commercial building, and the offices for the headquarters in an efficient way, maximize it, but at the same time create warehouses that would, have that creative flair to it. Also, this building, so the client wanted us to target to get a gold LEED accreditation. So there are so many factors that were coming in. It was a learning process for us. It was it is the first project where we had to strive to get the LEED accreditation. So it was very interesting to bring all those elements together and still come up with, a concept that kind of works as a commercial office, but also a creative industrial hub,
Right.
and it being LEED certified.
Sejal, you've worked often, with a lot of sustainable-based projects. So, how do you tend to manage clients' expectations sometimes when it comes to sustainability?
So yeah, we've worked on a few LEED Platinum projects. We've also worked on Mustadam Gold, and now we're working on some residential projects as well that are looking for these requirements. And there are some owners like Sheikha who really do prefer to maybe not look for any accreditation, but still have a knowledge and a sort of respect towards the future and want to look into sustainability. But there's a lot of research that goes into from our side, but of course, when you're looking at LEED Platinum or LEED Gold, like you mentioned, there's a lot of background work that we as designers are not really up to speed with. And there's a special expertise that needs to be guiding us. So typically there are lead consultants who would guide us, who work through us from concept to IFC stage and go through all the materials that we're selecting, or they'll tell us, okay, you know what, you need to change this thing because this is what's going to get you 3 lead points, or it's going to take negative, or look at this sort of flow rates and this sort of flush rates. So there's a lot of technicality that goes into. But of course, above all this, we need to ensure that the design and the end experience doesn't get compromised. So it's a two-hat that we have to play. But it's a really interesting project. And like you said, there's a lot of learning, and we ended up learning a lot. And of course, now that we've done a few projects, you do get into that. It naturally comes to you, and there are some amazing suppliers who actually do their own R&Ds and who also respect a lot on the sustainable side, where they are sort of marking their rugs where you can sort of take them back, or it has a sort of a recycled value or a sort of a turnaround life. So and of course with a lot of sanitary as well. So there are a lot of suppliers who do their work to again make our life easier.
Yeah, Giuseppe. Can you talk us through some of the sustainable initiatives that Ghidini is doing to anticipate future demands? Because this is something that's coming up regularly in our conversations,
Of course,
in terms of demands for clients.
Well, we did nearly 20 years ago a pretty significant investment for solar energy. So today, nearly 30% of our energy consumption comes from solar. So.
Wow.
Our facility is around 20,000 square meter, so it's fairly large, and it's all covered with solar panels. And yeah, during the month of August, by the way, that traditionally Italian companies, shamefully, I would say, stay closed, and we generate a lot of power. All this energy actually gets into the energy grid of our city. So, but besides that, we nearly 30% of our consumption is generated by solar power, and of course the metal element that is significant in everything that we do with Ghidini 1961, as well as the other metal brands that belong to the family company, are 100% circular. So we can recast pretty much everything. So going from A to Z, from the casting process to all the mechanical treatments, all the scrap material generated to that by that gets recasted, as well as any faulty items, things that don't go through the quality control processes, go back into the oven. So in that sense, it's very circular.
Okay, and in terms of production, there's a lot of like limited edition, and then companies drive up the price because you've got like these 20 pieces, and this is the only run you're going to get. What are your thoughts on that? It's like a collectible design. Okay, yes, of course. That's why I asked you the question.
We have some limited edition pieces. I don't see it as a marketing stunt. It's I think it's an opportunity for a brand to experiment with something that doesn't have to necessarily have a commercial mindset. So, for example, with us, we have some limited edition pieces designed by Campana Brothers. They are very well-known designers from Brazil. They also have an appeal into the gallery collectible side of things. Those are vases which are completely casted by hand. So it takes nearly 2 months to cast one piece. And so we decided to make a limited edition for those because it's consistent to also the craftsmanship that is needed. And so it's a limited edition of 99 pieces, and then we cast them all, and then we broke the molds. So, so yeah, we make sure that nothing is going to be replicated. We also have other limited edition pieces designed by the late Andrea Branzi. There's a very well-known Italian designer that passed away a couple of years ago. And with him, we designed some very strong, very iconic, in my opinion, bookshelves. And those are limited edition as well.
Can you talk more about your collaboration with Stefano, I hope I said this right, Giovannoni? Perfect. And how it influences, because like what you guys make is like literally livable, what I like to call livable art. So tell us about your process with working with such a creative.
Yeah, well, working with Stefano, I think it's a gift. Our roster of designers is actually 19 designers, but obviously Stefano, it's I would say he has been participating into creating Ghidini 1961 in a more significant way. For until 2022, he was also acting as creative director of the brand, which for us was important. Ghidini 1961, despite being part of our family company that is from 1961, it's a brand that started in 2016. So the first few years was, for us as a family, was very important to work with a leader in the industry, in the design industry in Italy, because we were approaching a new world essentially for us. So, and he's a very well-known designer, is very, very successful designer, has a track record of products that has been launching since the late 80s, that speaks for himself. And on a human level, he's a very nice guy. So very
that
nice,
helps.
Very nice, yeah, for sure. Because at the end of the day, I think the human element is really key for everything that you do. And also very talented individual. So it has been very inspiring. It's a very inspiring journey. It still is one of our most important designers. This year in 2024, we launched new products designed by him, as well as the wife. The wife is also very talented designer, Elisa Giovannoni.
That's amazing. On the topic of collaboration, can you talk about, Lamya, we'll start with you. Why don't you talk about a collaboration that you really loved working with?
a collaboration that I really liked to work with is an artist. I worked in a restaurant, Catch 22, and I do enjoyed working with the artists. They had a very creative talent. We had engravings, and we created a wall of a special paint, and I never expected that they will do the engravings as were designed. It was a wall of Marilyn Monroe, and he did it exactly engraved in the wall as per the design, and I was like impressed because it wasn't easy to engrave on the special paint. You guys know how the material is not is really hard to control. So yeah, this is one of the collaborations that I really was amazed with.
Reem, what about you? Any collaboration that you've...
No collaborations as of yet, because our projects are very personal. So like our clients, just come. So no artist collaboration as of yet. But inshallah, we look forward to.
Let's manifest that.
Yes. Inshallah.
Yeah. What about you, Sejal?
For me personally, I would say Garbu again, Tashkil team. The collaboration was fantastic. Got to learn so much on a personal level as well. I never knew there were so many different type of fishes that are again local. So we developed a mural that's in the bathroom, which is again hand painted, and all those fishes are describing or depicting local fishes in somehow. So the collaboration of that project was really interesting on multiple levels. But there are so many of these stories that we had the opportunity to work with so many talented local designers, not necessarily Emirati only, but locally based individuals who are with Tashkil or otherwise. But it's really interesting to learn what the region has to offer. Yeah.
How are tastes changing? Because we're surrounded by so much social media, and we're constantly looking at things. People's tastes are changing from today and tomorrow. How as a designer are you navigating this?
I think your topic says it all about artistry. I think that's the something that everybody looks for. And again, like you mentioned, right? It's sometimes about financial as well, right? Well, mostly it's about financial, but sometimes it's also about creating these moments that somehow we need to put the financial aspect behind us, but artistry and sort of respecting the heritage and promoting a lot of local craftsmen, and also some larger companies who, like you said, you have all these people who have worked with you for decades, and that they're craftsmen, they're not just workers. So to keep that alive, and so many companies like yourselves who are so family-born companies have people for generations, and those are real artists that we should really work towards and respect, and see how we can salvage that into future generation. Of course, it's about being modern as well at the same time and being relevant. But all these little bits that sort of come together, respecting where we need to be, is being unique, and also about storytelling. So that all sort of compasses into artistry.
Right.
Yeah.
Giuseppe, what about you? How does your brand respond to current demands, considering that tastes change so often?
True. Well, I would say the designers we work with, they come pretty much from all over the world. So, of course, we have a core of Italian designers, but we also work with designers from Japan, from Brazil, from the US, from various European countries. Ultimately, we as a company, we decide what to propose. So, crafting the new collection, ultimately it's our call. So obviously it becomes very important on a commercial side of things, the input that we can have from our distribution. So whether they are our country managers that work in all around the world, or our dealers. We actually always welcome indications from our dealers, and we take those into consideration when it comes to launch new products. So So I would say we would like to, we need to keep a global outlook, but then at a local level, we're very happy to propose something that resonates with the local audience, you know, and as you rightfully said, taste and habits change a lot, and yeah, so we do our best to try to propose
Have
something
there
that makes
been
sense.
any pieces that you have that have suddenly gained popularity because it appeared, I mean, there's sudden major demand or some limited edition that has gained popularity again?
Well, I mean, yeah, sometimes some of our products have been bought or used by some celebrities, like Drake.
Awesome.
Yeah, Drake is a client of us. So he bought some lamps, and then he ended up on cover pages of magazines and so on, and said that for sure drove demand. And yeah, we actually very proud, very happy to have very high-profile collaborations with celebrities as well as very well-known companies. They tend to choose us often. So that of course can spike demand.
That's really interesting. Reem, for your residential projects, have tastes been changing? What are the new things that you've noticed that people are starting to ask more of? Like, yes, more this.
Yes. I find that the tastes are changing towards a more timeless approach. We always hear from our clients, you know, we want interiors that'll grow with us, interiors that will, you know, that we can curate over time. So not something that's easily, or not something that will be changed quite often. So, you know, it's about creating this canvas or this base for these people to live in, and then over time just, you know, develop that space as their families grow.
All right. Lamya, what about you? What have you encountered?
In my experience, I feel that now the clients are going for more the personalized spaces that reflects their lifestyle and their vision. Also, I see a big importance now of the smart home system. Now it became standards in the designs. Also, our clients ask for the wellness spaces like a wellness room or spa to be incorporated in the house. So I can say it's a balance of between the innovation and the personal touch.
Okay. Generally, in luxury residential projects, a lot of clients have demands for custom furniture. Reem, what's your process for incorporating that sort of custom piece?
Well, whenever a client comes to us, you know, whenever we're presented with an opportunity to create customized spaces or furniture, it's very exciting because I feel like there is more play, like you get to be more creative within that space. And I think as designers, we obsess about the space so much. So when we get the chance to design the nitty-gritty, you know, we get excited. But we try to approach this process with caution, because you want to make sure that, you know, you're aligning with the client's vision. You know, you understand the client's personality. What story does he want to tell with this bespoke or this with this customized piece? You know, and then it becomes a process of, you know, understanding that client and picking his brain, and then finding the match. So who's, you know, what furniture makers would be appropriate to, you know, to come into the picture. So, you know, we try to bring those two visions together. And then obviously you have the process of, you know, quality, production, just meticulously observing and making sure that everything's on track to create, you know, so that the experience becomes successful from start to end.
Right. Sejal, you've done a couple of high-end residential projects. So what are your thoughts on custom?
So typically the places are still large, even though they are private residences. So we don't personalize everything. Of course, it's curated to the client's taste, like you said. But there are pieces that somehow connect to the narrative of the design that we envisioned in the start. So there are pieces that we would pick with the client, or we would propose, like this piece means a lot for your family, or this, like how you were saying, right? When you're doing personal houses, it's all about how people move in the spaces and how you're going to respect these things. So we try and identify not only furniture pieces, but a lot of finishes as well that do get personalized and bespoke into maybe a story of yourselves, or like, for example, we designed a light for a person for their residential house, where it's designed by a famous light supplier, but the personalization on that was you can imprint plants or flowers or whatever greenery into the glass itself, and the lady got her kids to pick the plants.
That's lovely.
That's
a memory as well.
Yeah, so it's not built yet. That's the intention. So that's the story. So it does get into that level of personalization, that where it actually means something, not just for the sake of personalization. Because again, company like yours, who've worked for years and years, you've done a lot of R&D into ergonomics, which is so important. So again, that's not something that we can create. We're not the experts. They are. So we always try to find the balance in where we should get involved and how much we can get involved. And if there are any furniture pieces we do customize, including seating, we try to specify a company who does get involved into these pieces that they design with us, not necessarily us on our own.
Yeah. Giuseppe, you've had some thoughts about this, I can tell.
Well, for us, customization is very important. Is something really sought after by our clientele. We, as standard, our standard is a bit unusual for loads of people, because we provide a great deal of customization already in the first place as standard. So we have, of course, coming from metal, we have 16 metal finishes that you can choose from, 14 different marbles to choose from, 14 different fabrics, and 5 different leathers variations. Within those, of course, you have all the color and fantasy variations. So by itself, potentially you have the opportunity to create something unique every time you choose the combinations. So potentially every single piece can be unique, and this is something that really resonates with our clientele. On top of that, there's the opportunity to, of course, use customer raw materials, and we have been receiving over the years very unique requests. And
can you tell us a little about some of them?
Maybe some very unique leathers, very unique fabrics that you wouldn't think could be,
like patterned one.
Sorry?
Like patterned fabric.
As well, yeah. That's of course very often, very often. And we, being producers, we also are able to go full bespoke, and that, of course, it follows a different kind of development path. But this is something that happens to us almost regularly. So,
all right. So we're talking. Let's talk about the future generations, since this is all about heritage and everything. Let's start with you, Sejal. You've mentored young designers in the past, and you're currently doing so. And how hopeful are you for the architects of the future?
We have to be hopeful, otherwise it won't be possible. No, there are some really talented kids out there. I do work with universities quite closely, and we also do have internship or mentoring program within the company as well. There are some really talented people and very passionate people, but I must say it is really hard to work with them. They have their little moods, which I think at our age we don't have. So it's the truth, It is hard, but that's something I think. If I can kind of say something for the future generation is to not stop using your hands. Like, don't stay away from the computer as much as possible. So we do promote a lot of hand use, a lot of pencil and sketches, and again in a modern way, right? Like iPads. You can, use Procreate and whatnot. So we do promote that a lot because that's where the design is. It has to connect to your soul. So that's something that we promote. And if I'm mentoring any kid, I normally do say, stay away from a lot of those softwares that, including AI, right? Like, is there to help you but not rule you. So use it to your advantage and not the other way around.
Yeah. Giuseppe, what are your thoughts on legacy and
about future generation, I would say it's very important for us because we have a great deal of craftsmanship in our production processes. So it's very important that the people that are working with us today will be able to be replaced in the future by younger generations, which in Italy, because we have, it's a society that is really based on family and family connections. Very often is the kids of the people that are working with us today. Of course, I cannot tell them, make sure that, But generally speaking, I think that's quite common in Italy. There's a lot of craftsmanship in many productions. So I think for the future Italian generations, it's very important that they make sure they don't lose this because of AI or because of maybe more appealing, theoretically appealing jobs, because this is something that makes Italy unique, and I believe that it's a strength and should be regarded, and it can be a very beautiful job opportunity for many young people out there. And with us, we employ some young people in our commercial teams, marketing, social media, as well as in production. So we try to attract talent, especially at a young age.
So with your experience with them so far, what have they taught you?
Well,
they're learning a lot from you, but what have you learned from them?
I'm still fairly young.
But you say young people, so I assume younger than you.
Well, I mean, the young people, they're working with me in the office. For example, they taught me about AI. I was quite familiar with ChatGPT. I just learned that there's some others that can even be better than that. And generally speaking, for content generation, imagery, and how to play with those, I must say it's not my field, and they know much better than I. So yeah, there's a lot to learn.
And what advice would you give them today?
I would say work hard, but also follow your passion. Don't follow the money. Just try to do something that you like, because if you do it with passion, it's way more satisfying, and the results will come, generally speaking. So yeah.
Right. Lamya, why don't you tell us, so what is the type of legacy you would like to leave behind, and what would your advice be for
My advice,
designers?
sketch, guys. It will make you feel the space. It will make you feel the dimensions, the scale. It's very important. And by the way, it creates a kind of attachment between you and the project. I don't know how, but that happens with me. And follow your passion. You cannot be a designer without a passion. If you don't have the passion, don't work as a designer. It's very important. So yeah.
I think it's about staying educated. I think it's about learning. I always feel like we're all a work in progress. We're never really there. So my advice would be to just, do your research. Try to always be open. I think this is how you learn, and this is how you just expand your skills. So I think this is key, to just stay open and be willing to learn. Seek up mentors, why not? I think that's a great way to develop your skills, to see things in a different perspective. So, yeah.
All right. I think we can end this wonderful panel discussion on this note. Thank you to all of you.